This is pause for dramatic effect. One Mississippi, two Mississippi, three Mississippi slashers. Your new favorite podcast about your new favorite. Four Mississippi, five Mississippi, six Mississippi horror media. My name is seven Mississippi, eight Mississippi, nine Jake, and with me as always are my esteemed 10 Mississippi, 11 Mississippi, 12 colleagues, co-hosts, and cohorts, Mikey and eight. Say hello to the mutant goons from beyond.
Hello.
Hey goons, how's everyone doing today?
Eight is too disappointed in me to even sigh right now. She just looked and was like, well, this is the episode we're doing, I guess.
Her eyes did the sign.
It's okay. Yeah, it's just look in my eyes, but the listeners won't see it, so it's fine. Everything's fine.
Look in my eyes. You're the cult of personality over here. In living color.
Yeah.
The band.
Too young.
I know who that is. Speaking of bands, how were the Smashing Pumpkins, Jacob?
Ooh, that name is not appropriate, but yeah, the Smashing Pumpkins were fine. Jane's Addiction was not.
We'll censor it so it's not like she called you something way worse.
Yeah,
okay.
Billy Corgan had laryngitis, so he had moments where he sounded really bad. But then the vast majority, I was very impressed that he was able to do such a good job and was committed to it. And you can't question the workmanship. Like he would like step off stage and just start like chugging like honey and stuff, and then he'd go right back on and keep doing it. It was like very admirable job. I like to think I would have done the same if I hadn't sold out and become an attorney. But what about you guys? Did you do anything fun this week?
Well, do you remember when he dated Jessica Simpson? Neither here nor there. But this week,
what is it for him dating women who can't sing or otherwise supporting them, like Courtney Love with is Jessica the good one? It's Ashley who's the bad one.
Yeah, but I like her music better. Jessica's on the wagon too, so she had to have a whole article about being on the wagon. I'm like, good for you, dear. Moving on.
I've always liked her. I've always appreciated her because she was
because she
one
threw
of the
the
pop
laundry.
Stars that didn't actually sing. No, I didn't pay attention to her reality show.
She threw the laundry out the window.
No.
Everybody...
I just really liked.
Sorry, go ahead.
Are you talking about the Newlywed Show?
Yeah, when she's married to Nicholas Shea, and like everybody was giving her shit, but now as an adult, I know why she threw the fucking laundry out the window. So if we see any underwear flying off my balcony in the future, you know what happened.
But no, as far as this week goes, just prepping for Thanksgiving. Went to my kids' cheer event. That was super cute. I started doing it's called like a readathon where they give you 9 prompts. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it because I'm a slow as reader, but I meant slow ass, but I said slow as reader. But
I thought you said slowest, so I was okay with it.
I am the slowest reader, but I got into this book called Slewfoot, which is amazing, and I'm about to finish it. And I know I sent you the picture with the colonial woman with the hooven feet on a broom. It's a tale of bewitchery. But I really like books these days about, or even movies, just like revenge, like someone who isn't supposed to be doing something getting hers. Like the women are supposed to be seen and not heard, but then she's like, well, I'm gonna be heard and I'm gonna fuck y'all up. So I'm all about it. I'm here for it.
Sick. And Aid, you were so happy to be alive. You were like talking about how happy you are and how things are so great. Is that true?
Yeah, everything's amazing. Yay.
Everything is awesome. Everything is done. That was apparently a Garfunkel and Oates song before it was a Lego song, I heard. Is that true?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Did you say Garfield and Oates? What?
Garfunkel and Oates. You haven't heard of that?
No.
Yeah, it's a joke based on Simon and Garfunkel and Hall and Oates. It's the second half of the guys. It's these two ladies who be singing songs. You know how they do.
Oh,
they're not ladies.
But I know the girls, the band called Garfinkel and Oates is two vagina havers. Those two, the namesakes are guys with peepees.
I met Art Garfunkel once on the monorail at Disney World. So there's a story.
Was he the guy operating it because he's the second named Remember the band? Toot
No.
toot.
Whatever. No, my dad recognized him, so of course he was fangirling over him and just went over and talked to him like the entire ride. It was so embarrassing. Like, oh my God.
He's like, I'm on vacation, guy.
I know. My dad's just talking away. I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. Anyway, speaking of being embarrassed, how many okay, I thought this was a little awkward to watch. I don't know how you guys felt with today's selection.
This movie was awkward to watch?
Yeah, you didn't feel awkward at all?
No, I'm gonna tell you a dramatic
No.
recreation. I'm sitting there watching it on my phone. My wife has the TV. I hold it. I like to do this kind of sarcastically, where I hold my phone so that I can perceive it as the same screen size as the TV. We have like a big ass smart TV that's really stupid and takes up too much of our room, or our living room. And so if I hold it at the right angle, they're the same size. So I'm watching it and pretending that I actually am a man who has control and dominion over my own house because my wife has the TV. And I just keep like intermittently pausing and going, the fundamentals on this movie are just so good. And then I just keep doing that. And then it goes off the rails. And I was like Twitter pated. And I was like, look at these pendulous breasts. So I wasn't ashamed. If anything, I was eager to share.
I
Yeah.
didn't think it was awkward for me. I thought it was it got kind of funny, but I know I mentioned it when I did like my quick spoiler-free review on one of our earlier shows, but now that we're doing the spoiler version, I
Thank
just
God,
thought it was
finally.
Castle Freak. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I just felt, I mean, it was good, but it just made me feel the same way when I was watching Castle Freak, like kind of icky, but not really awkward.
Oh, it was so similar. Even like the severity of the Skarsgårdian kill reminded me of the severity of the nipple chomping from our what did we call him on that episode so many moons ago? Was it something about like he had his nub dick? Do you remember that episode? Have you committed it to memory?
No, I
Before both
wasn't
of
on
your
it.
time. I know. It's just like
Yeah.
fifth episode we did or something like that.
I don't even know if, I mean, I guess I did hear it because it was like the fifth one. I probably did hear it, but yeah,
Would this movie be better with Jeffrey Combs in it?
no.
Hmm.
Well, I think Richard Brake in it is such a nice surprise. Like, that's probably my favorite. When I saw it, and I was like, "Oh my God, Richard Brake!" Because I didn't know. Like, I tried to go in this without knowing anything.
Yep, same. I didn't watch a
Well,
trailer.
that's
All I saw was the poster that I have defaced behind me.
so I did the same thing, but I felt like the filmmakers wanted us to do that. And my thing, every time I was telling someone, like, because after you watch the movie, people are gonna spoil shit. So I was always telling people, like, don't look at anything, don't look at any other trailers, just kind of go in with like a fresh mind. But I would tell them, I was like, this doesn't mean there's like some sort of M. Night Shyamalan twist. It's just fun to not know what you're getting into. And I was wondering, I was like, is that because of this movie, or should we be approaching all movies like that?
So I've had that quandary for a while. I think we've talked about it going back to the Pet Cemetery remake, where I was like, trailers, I just don't do trailers anymore. Usually what I'm doing is basing my eagerness about something based on other people's reviews and stuff, but you can't rely on that to be your like the way that you ingest new media, because if you never try anything new, then there's nobody to try anything new for you, right? So it kind of ends up just nobody sees anything, which I've gotten in that trap as well, where I just skipped years of movies because I was like, I'm just not gonna check it out. But when it comes to a movie like this, it's hard because just like you said, it's not a twist, it's a shift, right? It's a tonal shift and
Mhm.
everything kind of changes. So it's like it's my issue is not so much like how we see it's really just trailer making because it's clickbait. That's what
Yeah.
trailers are now, where it's like, here's a little bit of all the best shit. And if you don't see it, you don't get to see any of this. But then I've seen too much. It reminds me, if you've ever looked at like the trailer for old ass movies, like I'll never forget on the DVD extras for Carrie, going back and watching the theatrical trailer. And it shows everything. It
Everything.
shows her, it shows the shower, it shows the crazy mom, it shows her at prom doing all the stuff, it shows her flipping the fucking car. And you're like, then why would I watch the movie? So I think that
Yeah.
it's possible there will be a wavelength where things kind of bounce back in the future. But man, trailers just suck buttholes.
Well, I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
if like with Carrie's situation or like any of those old movies, because they all did that. Even the trailer for Friday the 13th, where
Mhm.
and it's the longest fucking trailer because it goes one and then shows you clip and then two shows you
Yeah.
clip. And I'm like, how long am I gonna sit here for? Like what and I don't know if maybe like I think because now we're everything's so accessible, we could just click on it and stream it and watch it on our phone and just see everything. I think when we saw trailers back then, you just saw them in the movie theater, right? So maybe you just that was all you got until you actually saw the film. I don't know. I wasn't alive for either of those films, but that's just my assumption for it. I have no idea. But with this one with Barbarian, which I don't think we said the name, but yes, it's Barbarian. With Barbarian, I watched it and I only watched it because I saw that Bill Skarsgård was in it. So I was like, all right, let me see what the hell's going on with him.
He's
And
sexy as hell too.
yeah, you know what? There's something like very sinister and hot about him. I mean, I
Oh
prefer his
man, if I was that girl, I would have rode his dick till it fell off in that Airbnb, and then
I
I wouldn't have even
know.
gotten into the basement.
Exactly. Like they could have just been fucking upstairs and had a good time and then went home. Like what's going on here? Anyways, that's neither here nor there. But
Because they're
but
both not in their same zip code, so you don't have to worry about that guy who is calling her. It's not cheating, right?
Exactly.
well no,
Yeah.
they were having problems. I think they were broken up actually. I think she was just ignoring
Yeah, I
him.
think it was his
She,
But women
ex.
are
her ex.
property, so it really isn't her decision until he says that he's done.
Yes, I forget we're in 2022. It's true.
Yeah.
And they're in Detroit no less. So but
As a
I
Red Wings fan, I'm going to take offense to that statement, but I will let you continue.
well, okay, but if you saw the trailer, I noticed in one of the clips, and it's very quick flash that just I saw Justin Long's face.
Oh, I thought you
So
flashed up a peepee.
no, I've seen that before. But no, I saw
Justin
just
Long's peepee?
no, I've seen APP. Like, people like to flash them here and there. For some reason, men like to just like,
Never the ones you want to, but yeah,
never
I
the ones you
understand.
want to see, never the good ones, right?
Yeah.
It's always like the little pudgy ones that are like a different color than the rest of your body. Like, ew, I hate those penises. Anyways,
They look
um,
dirty. Those are the
they
saddest
do.
ones.
They
It's
do
one thing
look
if it looks like raw or like a naked mole rat. You're like, okay, that's fine. It doesn't see the sun. But when it has that dinge to it, you're like, what is that dinge made of? Is that dead skin or like feces?
like, did you scrub? Like, anyway. So I
I'm going to
just
take a screenshot of the next time I see one of those. I'm going to post it on the mycology subreddit. So I'm going to find out what kind of fungus it is under this guy's dick skin.
You know what it looks like? It kind of looks like, remember in Game of Thrones where they get what is that, where the skin disease that they get? What is that called?
Dragon scale
The scale. That's what it
or
looks
something
like.
scale.
Something,
It was
the
like
scale. Yeah.
grayscale.
Grace,
Grayscale.
whatever. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I was interested because I saw Justin Long's face and I can't remember who the hell was I talking to?
Well, let me just stop you right there for 1 second.
Go
Wait,
ahead.
so
Yeah.
you disabled screen sharing, Little Miss Host Lady. But if you
I,
look at Bill Skarsgård on his
She
picture
didn't
on the
do anything.
Wikipedia,
That's what
if
you get
you
for switching her to
you know
host.
what?
he
You
looks
have been like so mean to me all day today, Jake. I'm just gonna say that.
he
You,
looks like he would sell you fentanyl behind a Jamba Juice. So
But
do
is he
you
gonna give it
think
to me afterwards?
that's the question? Do you think that you're calling him hot has anything to do with the fact that he might be a very talented and rich person?
who's hot? Bill Skarsgård or
No.
Justin
Yes.
Long?
Skarsgård.
No, because
Do me a favor,
when I
everybody
see a
stop
picture of
and
him,
look at his Wikipedia page.
Okay. Well, I used to watch him on Hemlock Grove
Okay.
and
Did he look
see,
like he used to sell fentanyl behind a Jamba Juice in
well,
Hemlock Grove?
he's creepy, but there's something about him, and I don't know what it is. But I like very troubled men, so that's probably my issue. I don't know why Mikey likes him.
well,
Mikey,
his
explain.
Wikipedia page actually is a pretty flattering picture because I
Yeah,
don't think he photographs well at all. I don't hear his name and get like that, loin in my groin type feeling. But when I see him in the beginning of Barbarian, I'm like, man, I want him to wreck my shit up in that Airbnb.
Well, and
I don't know what it is.
Because he's got those big blue eyes and he's very unassuming. He's kind of awkward. Well, see, that was what was awkward for me. It wasn't later in the movie. Well, later in the movie, the breastfeeding thing, that freaks me out. Like, I don't like thinking about that. Like, ugh. But just their interaction with each other and having to talk to each other, because he was awkward. Like, he was like, he didn't know.
Yeah.
But he was very self-aware. Like, he knew he was being weird and he felt something about it, right? But
I think there's definitely something a little menacing about his appearance, which plays into the movie, because in the beginning you don't know if you can trust him or not.
Yeah, and you still never know. You never find out if you can trust him. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly what I've been saying to people is it's not mutually exclusive. Just because he's victimized doesn't mean he wasn't also a bad guy. It very well could be. And the fact that it's uncertain is kind of cool.
Yeah, but it just made me feel badly though when she was looking at the phone, because you could tell at that point that she kind of liked him, right?
Oh yeah.
And so, that was my only disappointment. Like, killing him off was such a stark, like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened and happened so soon. And, because when you deal with Bill Skarsgård now, he's so, I guess, I don't know. I don't want to say he's big. Like, I don't want to say he's like in Alexander territory, because I prefer Alexander, to be completely honest. By the way, the Viking, the Northman, oh my God. Talk about
7
peepees.
hours long. Jesus,
Did
I
you
don't know if
watch
I can
it?
do it.
Did you watch it?
I
Oh
was gonna,
no.
and then I saw how long it was, and I was like, I don't have the fucking patience
It
to watch
is
this sad shit.
vicious. You don't even realize, like, you won't even realize it. Like, the beginning with Ethan Hawke, you're like, and Willem Dafoe, you're like, what the fuck is happening? And then that goes over, and then they're like adults, and then like all this shit's happening, and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like, you
Okay.
can't, you have to watch
Let me
it.
ask you a question. Should I watch that or should I watch the 13th Warrior again?
13 Ghost.
The 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas, where he's race bending. I need to know.
No, I think you should watch The Northman. It's very different.
If I do this, if I watch The Northman and I don't think it's as good as the 13th Warrior, we're going to record a second episode on this show of the 13th Warrior, and I'm going to make you watch that movie.
Fine.
Mikey, you down?
I know you're not going to like it. It's okay. But sure.
I think that Jake would like it, but there's no pleasing him. So what can we do?
Well, that's my thing, is I'm always like, I think a normal person would like this. And then Jake comes in with his fuckboy haircut and his California veneers. And he's like, yo, bro, this was stupid.
California veneers. These are real teeth. I bought them myself.
It's funny. It's like meeting all of you. Jake was the exact way that he is, like, looks exactly the same, exact same personality, like same everything.
Mikey said that I was a little bit better built than he thought I was.
Yeah, he was taller than I expected.
I envisioned, I knew Jake was tall and vegan, so I imagined him being kind of on the skinny side. But I was like, no, you actually have a pretty solid frame.
I think he called me a twiggy bitch.
Mm-hmm. I love it. But I guess what I'm saying is that if Bill Skarsgård opened the door, it's one thing. I think it's interesting to have someone like him, because we all look at him like, what?
Let Skarsgård open the door.
Oh my God.
Let Skarsgård open the door.
It's like if Jake opened the door, like, you're like, okay, he's an unassuming white guy, I guess. I'll go inside for a minute. We'll see what happens. He'll say some awkward things, make me cringe, but I'll still stay there as long as the door is locked. And I think that it's plausible having somebody like him versus, I think, if, like, what would be a guy, Mikey? And I'm asking Mikey this, but I guess Jake, you could answer this too. What actor, if they open the door, you'd be like, nope, and turn around and get back in the car?
Willem Dafoe.
If Willem Dafoe opened the door and drag, I'd so go in. Oh my God.
But like if we're talking about like similar age and similar like type, because Willem Dafoe is just, it's a cheap shot.
I was gonna say Kevin Sorbo, which is a cheaper shot. So yeah, you're good.
I'm trying to think, like,
don't bring that negativity.
Honestly, I would be really scared if it was like Jason Momoa.
Oh yeah, I was
Um,
just thinking that. I mean, maybe,
'Cause
I don't know. I'd probably still go in, but I'm just an
I
idiot.
mean,
So.
I know like we all kind of have a little insight into his personality. We know he's fun and everything. When you just look at him for the first time, he's really intimidating.
He's
Bill
very
Skarsgård
menacing.
isn't intimidating, and I was wondering if maybe his past role as Pennywise, they were relying on to kind of like have people be like, is he bad or is he good?
I think that you're supposed to have that preconceived notion because when I listened to Zach Krieger talk about how he came to write this film, it was originally just an exercise in like how many red flags could this gal overcome. So I think they wanted there to be a certain amount of bias where we as the audience are already defensive on her behalf because we're looking at it from like, it's the classic horror movie of like, don't go in that house, don't go upstairs, don't do this stupid thing, and to kind of see how many like little compromises she makes until she puts herself in a dangerous position.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised that she asked to see his reservation because even I was kind of like, oh, I would have never thought of that. I would just blindly been like, okay,
And
we're roommates.
the thing is like, it's all plausible, right? So all of these things happen. Like he seems like and I wonder if, and we know that the lady that was running the Airbnb was for Justin Long or whatever.
Mhm.
Remember when she hangs up on him and she's like, nobody's renting it? Well, then how did two people get there? So like, who is, maybe I missed something. Like who was controlling this
Why did that
then?
happen?
No, it was supposed to say that nobody had been there for so long that it was to show that it had been a span of like weeks, not just days.
Oh, weeks between when the two were there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So one of
That
them
makes
was the
sense.
last reservation, and that's what I took it to be, like a deliberate showing of like this isn't the next day because already there's a certain amount of convenience to the story, right? But then
Uh-huh.
that's the thing. If that's the premise of your movie is convenience, it doesn't bother me. Like if it's a contrivance to get out of a situation, that annoys the shit out of me. But if that's like the fact, that's the thing. Like if you have a Tuesday and it's just a Tuesday, why am I going to watch that as a movie? But if you have a Tuesday where you happen to get superpowers and save the day, and then they disappear and you go right back to life on Wednesday, then that Tuesday is suddenly more worthwhile. And so the fact that it was contrived to be worthwhile doesn't make it less so. But if you manufacture a scenario and then you have a contrivance where it's like, oh, well, now I have superpowers and I can break out of this basement. That's the problem. And so I think people are kind of misconstruing at least with some of the criticism I've seen online, like what the difference is. Did my explanation make sense to you guys?
Yes, and it makes sense. But the thing is okay. I'm glad that you said that because that's what I took it as. Like it was a few days that she was down there, and then it was like a mystery of like how these people got there. So that's what but that's I was watching it late and I was tired, so maybe I just misunderstood. So I'm glad you cleared that up. But yeah, she was down there a while, right? Because I think at some point they do say,
Mhm.
okay. Um, but I also wanted to talk about too, like the difference between Bill Skarsgård, like you go and you see him, like, or if Justin Long had opened the door, for instance, we know that Justin Long has some issues. And it's like you're dealing with like two ends of the spectrum of like cringiness with guys. You're dealing with Bill where we know nothing. And then we're dealing with Justin where, and I'm sorry, I don't know their names. I'm sorry. Justin's name is AJ in the movie. We're dealing with AJ, who is clearly having some issues with his view of what rape is, and like you're learning more and more about him, and so like who is she safer with? And what got me in this entire film was that she was safest with the quote monster
Yep.
or the homeless man and who she thought was a threat, right? And I don't want to say I don't know, like if it was like, oh, because this black man's coming at her, right? Like her instinct was to freak out, but she's also black, right? What is she? I don't know, but
Yeah,
Yes.
she's
I
not
think she's
white.
black.
So,
Yeah.
I think that being in the neighborhood and like this homeless crackhead, and I have homeless crackheads yelling at me all the time downtown. So like I get it, right? Like I want to get away. It's
Mhm.
just I just love that little those little touches in here that I don't know if anybody really, I'm sure everyone picked up on it, but those were just things that I picked up on
Like almost like the
watching it.
commentary.
Yeah, like who is the monster here? Who's really the monster? And we don't know who monsters are just by looking at them. It could be anybody, right? Because even, for example, Richard Brake and everything he did, like there's just so many little facets and like wonderful parts of this movie that just kind of were very subtle, and I don't think they were like in your face. And the shift in tone, or the shift in the film, it was needed, I think, because we had Bill getting his head smashed in, and then it just goes blank, right? And then we don't know what happens.
Mhm.
And I think that was a nice little way of getting another plot point in and introducing another character into the story, because you're wondering how it's all going to fit. And it was, I don't know. Okay, I don't know why I went on the rant. Sorry, Jake. Back to
It's
what
not
you
a
were
rant.
saying.
It's good. Well, because it shows like the kind of fragmented nature of this narrative, right? Where you have
Mhm.
this tension, and then you have this cathartic break, right?
Mhm.
And with when it's Skarsgård's head being broken, and then it has an immediate tonal shift to something that's a complete palate cleanser, and it has an inherent comedic nature to it because it's just so silly with the Ricky Tikki Tabby and everything, and then it's different, and it's almost like it ingratiates you to Justin Long for that moment because he's not a murderer, he's a funny guy. It's this kind of catharsis, it's a relief, a reprieve, whatever you want to call it. So instantly you're like, okay, cool, this is my guy. Like, and then you have this allegation, but you're still kind of on his side because his acting and his depiction. And then you realize it's all just an act for him. So I think that structurally, while somewhat abrupt, this movie has some of my favorite structure of a movie I've seen in quite a long time based on that. Because you basically get, rising action, climax. And then it's kind of that those two things combine, which I think I've talked about, like my love of this book from when I was a kid, which was Redwall, where it's, one chapter to the protagonist, one chapter to the antagonist. You get towards the end of the book, it's the clash of the two. And it was kind of like that, just without having the anachronistic back and forth between A plot, B plot. It was all of the A plot, all of the B plot, then the resolution of both. What do you guys think of the structure?
I really liked it. It reminds me of a movie. Well, like we could say Psycho, of course, but then, and I've mentioned this briefly before, a movie called Horror Hotel, where you're following a story, and then like right when the story is getting good, it stops and another story is introduced, and you realize, oh, okay, there's actually more to this story. And Psycho and Horror Hotel, it happens, of course, whenever Janet Leigh dies in Psycho, and then in Horror Hotel, a very similar type thing happens.
Mikey?
There's
Mikey.
What?
That movie's in black and white, right?
Yeah.
So we should probably just do that one. You and me,
So,
me and you, the two of us together.
I want to do that one. I love that
It's
one.
on Tubi, so we can do it.
Perfect.
So that'll be the B plot to this episode.
The B track.
Yep.
But so I really
Christopher
like
Lee's in this shit, and you didn't tell me?
Bitch, I don't know who that is. However,
he's fucking with you. Don't say that on a horror podcast, Mikey. Jesus Christ.
Well, let me explain. When I saw Horror Hotel and then I saw it again a couple of years ago, I couldn't tell you who Christopher Lee is by looking at him.
It's the same movie as City of the Dead. Okay.
Yes. They're different titles.
Okay. But then I've seen it, but I'll still see it again.
Oh my God. Anyways, so
I'm really glad I interrupted you for this. I apologize.
Yeah, I don't even remember where I was going. I liked the structure change, or the structure. I think whenever you mix it up like that, it makes it fresh. We're not going through the typical hero's journey. We get assigned a new character in Justin Long, who at first we're like, it's Justin Long, American sweetheart. And then you're like, oh shit, he's actually not an American sweetheart in this movie. And then it also doesn't feel like they threw him in there just to have Justin Long in the movie. Like everything connects, everything makes sense and has a reason. And then you get a really interesting dynamic where, she was so reserved when it came to Bill Skarsgård, who was so adamant about making sure she felt comfortable, like not even like making her tea until he got there, or not, doing stuff until she saw him, so she doesn't think that he's doing anything nefarious. And then we have Justin Long, who took advantage of one of his co-stars. And when he shows up, she's like, fuck it, we're in this situation, I'm going to trust you with everything. And he almost gets her killed twice. So
well, and he's the
um,
one who does it, right? He shoots her and then he throws her off
yeah,
the thing.
yeah,
And with his character, it's just, and I wonder if she did that going back for him because A, she felt guilty about Bill Skarsgård, and B, she couldn't just leave somebody down there. Like her own motherly instincts or her own womanly instincts, like, kicked in and said, okay, I have to go back for him.
yeah.
And then the whole commentary and the fact that the police are fucking useless, all of
Oh
that.
yeah.
I mean, they're just so. And if you're looking at the film at face value, and you're not, looking at the underlying themes of all of this, then it's a fine enough, a good enough movie on its own, right? But just having all of these other things peppered in here, and the fact that they're gaslighting her, they're not listening to her. They assume that she's a homeless, crazy person, and probably because she's not a lily white girl either, too, is leading them to believe that she's just this crazy little crackhead on the corner
Yeah.
making up stories. And it's just, to me, it's just the whole thing, and it's everything is just so subtle. I don't know, everything is just kind of like eases you into things, and I think the only stark parts are like when things start to get, and I think that that's intentional, right? Because you're made to feel like, as she's starting to feel uneasy, you're realizing, oh my god, this is terrible. Like she's like, no, I'm not going to go in this dark hole, and then she goes in, right? Because she has
Nope.
nope. And then and that's the thing. And like I would do the same, but then eventually, like your curiosity gets the better of you. She figures a way to get a light down in there. Of course, you want to know what's in there. And I
Yeah.
think I probably, if I was her, I would have went with him. If he had to go down in there and go, I would have just gone with him, because that would
Yeah.
drive me crazy not knowing what happened to him. I mean, eventually we know, but whatever. Sorry.
Yeah. I also forgot to mention one of my favorite parts of the movie is, well, it's not really a part, but a collection of parts, is whenever she gets there and it's raining, you can't see anything. And then they have a whole interaction between her and Bill Skarsgård. And then something's mentioned about, I'm surprised you'd get an Airbnb on this side of town. She's like, I don't know. And then in the morning she walks out and you realize it's
So
like
good.
real bad neighborhood, and you don't even notice it at night. So I was like, oh shit, because that was also something that I wasn't expecting. And it's just like that one house, like the only house that's been kept up and like modernized, and everything else is, kind of like in like in It Follows, with all the abandoned houses in Detroit.
Yeah,
So.
and also too with what's the other one? Why can't I think of it? Fede Alvarez movie where he's
Crawl.
blind. No,
Oh, Don't Breathe.
Oh,
Don't Breathe. Crawl.
I'm sorry. If you ask a Californian, Orlando is a hellscape of water and crocodiles. So yeah,
But we're not talking about water and crocodiles.
you're talking
We're
about
talking
dirty
about
old
abandoned
houses. That's all
homes.
that they have in Florida.
Oh my goodness.
It's all
How
DeSantis
dare
lets you have.
Oh my goodness. Well, anyways, we're not getting
But
into
yeah,
that.
the
But
reveal is my favorite part of her realizing how bad it is outside. Because I have a conspiracy theory that she fully intended to sleep with the Skarsgård man. She just wanted to see him in the daylight to see if he had Fuchi face or see if his eye was into that weird thing. And then that's why she was so excited to get back, because she's like, okay, cool, we'll smash. But
That
then,
dick is mine.
yep. And then when she went outside, she's like, ooh, maybe he and I go get a hotel. And then she thinks maybe I might get him tested for sepsis before I let him smash. But we'll see. I don't know. I enjoyed that element of it. Aid, on the structure part, what do you think of the A plot, B plot resolution?
oh, I loved it. Like I said, and I mentioned it earlier, and you even said it. Like it's a nice break when you get to Justin Long's part, and I do like the fact that you kind of forget what you were watching because you're just kind of getting enthralled with his storyline, right? And all the things happening to him, and watching his life, spiral out of control. And it does make sense that that is the only house on the block that is seemingly okay, because obviously he owns it. He was probably planning on doing more with it, never got around to it, and now has no choice. And so I just, I think it works well with this. There are lots of films, obviously, like Mikey was saying. The biggest one I think is obviously Psycho, is where you have two different storyline. It's one movie and then it's another. And I'm trying to think. There's other films like that, and the other one that brings me to mind is The Blackcoat's Daughter, that Jake will never watch. So there's that one, and it sort of has that kind of nonlinear, like a plot B plot type thing going on as well. But I think that this is more effective. I think this would draw a wider audience. And it is a nice surprise to have Justin Long, even though I hate seeing him in this kind of role. I was really upset. Like I was very upset seeing Justin Long in this kind of role because we love him.
Oh, he played it so good though. He was
He
such a
did.
good douche.
Exactly. That's one
I
of the good things, though, seeing people that you like be bad in movies and be truly deplorable is something I admire so much. Because I feel like everything now, there aren't really villains. Everybody is hoping to be the next Loki, right? Everybody's kind of winking at the camera like, hey, if you like me, they'll bring me back for a real nice payday. And so I always love it when somebody can be deplorable. That's why I like, in pro wrestling, people who like the truly amazing heels are the people I have the most respect for, like Roddy Piper or like modernly MJF, these people who are just so antagonistically unlikable. And he has so many opportunities, and you can just see it just gets worse and worse and worse. With the scene with Zach Krieger's cameo when he's confiding in him what happened at the bar, it's like, that's really bad, and then it gets worse, and then it's more compromises. And I love so much that his mom has that phone call with him where you get to see how selfish he is, how he's rushing her, and then specifically when she says not to talk about this woman this way, even in a private conversation, it makes it somehow more disgusting, his behavior, because it's already misogynist, which I'm opposed to. But then it's the fact of like, this is even in private, that this is wrong, and she's confronting him with that, and he's doubling down. That definitely shows a variance of like, the nature versus nurture. Like, there's also, there's nature, there's nurture, there's Michael Myers, right? Where there's the third option where it's like, it might not be that he was born that way or that he was raised that way. He might just be evil. He might just always make the wrong choice, and that's kind of where he falls into.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's where, the movie does a really good job. And I think that's like probably the biggest theme, right? Is that you can't trust what you see. Nothing what you see at face value is what it seems, right? Because he's he's unassuming. I mean, it's Justin fucking Long. Like, what did he do, right? No, he's like raping people, and then he's blaming them for it, right? And then he can't even control anything he does, or how he behaves, because he even calls her when he knows he shouldn't, and he's leaving, and it's just it's so hard because he's the type of guy like I've met this person before on so many occasions, and it's just, for me watching that, I'm just like shaking my head because it's a character, and the problem is like he has friends, right? Like he has people who like him, and it's just like, if he never was in this situation, he would just go on and be that person for the rest of his life, right? Like there would just be no consequences. So I think that he's given all of these opportunities to redeem himself, and he still can't even do it. Like he still can't even, he says he's going to be a better person. He says he wants to be a better person. And then what does he do? He throws homegirl off the fucking thing. What the fuck? Like,
well, and there's even more subtle things. The way he answers the phone and says, "Sup, F-bomb." Like, you have these moments
what
where
did he say? I didn't hear that part.
I'm not gonna say it.
I don't remember what it was. Just say it.
It's the F word that I won't say. There's two F words. No, I would say fucker every day.
Oh, I don't know what it was. So
Jake can say butt fucking, but he can't say the other thing.
He calls someone a collector of a bundle of sticks, and the way that he says it reminds me so much. And maybe it's also because it was in the movie Bros, where Billy Eichner confronts his boyfriend about liking the movie The Hangover, because there's the Dr. F-bomb thing. And so maybe it was also extra fresh in my mind. But in this, when he says that, it's like, just because it's a likable person does not mean that the things they do are okay. And I think that so often people will engage in those compromises for convenience or to get closer to people. But like when you see something that's wrong and you know something is wrong, that's why the mom is such a cool character because she calls him out on being wrong. And the friend, you don't ever get to see that, but I guess it's assumed because he's only kind of drunk and then he's very drunk that they continue to just be drunk together. There was nothing that indicated there was any kind of confrontation after that conversation that they have where he kind of confides in him. And that just kind of shows you that, like, left unchecked, this kind of behavior and these kinds of people will just get worse. They don't ever get better.
Yeah.
Nice try, Mikey. You're not going to get me on that one.
He's only called me that one time.
Oh my God. Do not.
Just kidding. My goodness, I'm probably the only one on this show that says it.
But then you complain about it when it's said like twice in my favorite movie of all time. Jeez Louise.
No, I didn't complain about it.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You said it was said all the time and all this cranky stuff, and it's the best movie ever.
No, I
Everybody
said that
accepts
someone
respect.
was trying to describe the movie to me, and they said it was from the 80s about kids, and they kept saying the F word. And I said, oh, that must be Monster Squad.
Okay, that is
I
fair.
had to turn it off because I told you I was playing it for the kids like at the end of the year because it was on Netflix or whatever, and I had to turn it off because they just kept shouting it out. I'm like,
yeah,
like I can't do this.
It reminds me, I haven't seen it, but that movie with Rebel Wilson where she's a cheerleader and how she like tries to bully some of the high schoolers, and they're like, everyone's a winner here. Like even the popular kids are like siding with the nerds, and she's like, what the fuck's wrong with y'all?
I mean, and that's the thing too. It's Justin Long would be the person who would still say that, right? His character, anyways. Not
exactly.
Yeah, and because the people still say it. It's just it's weird. When I hear someone say it now, like deliberately, I'm just like I'm just like, what, and people used to say it so much back in the day. Like my friend, he doesn't. Well, he might listen to the episode. I don't know, but he uses that in one of the books that he's published. And I told him before he did it, I was like, I think you should take that out. Like you wrote this 10, 15 years ago when it wasn't socially acceptable, but people said it all the time. So that makes sense. I'm like, but I don't think you should say it now if you're not setting it back in that time, or if you're not trying to, you know what I mean? Like don't
vilify someone.
Yeah. Like I don't think you should use that. Like, like so many guys used to say, what does it matter? What the fuck are we talking about? Anyways, back to Barbarian.
It's only appropriate during kinky sex, but
when you call each other nasty names.
Demean me, daddy. Demean me.
So that's why my wife keeps calling me that. Interesting.
You know what? I want to know what Sarah does to get the TV and have control in the house, because I need to like pick up a few cues from her. That'd be wonderful. But back to Justin Long. Like, I just think that like the whole aspect or the surprise with him. And I forget who the fuck was I talking to? They're like, you don't even know Justin Long's the movie from the trailer. I'm like, yes, you do. I see a snippet of him. When I see Justin Long, I know it's Justin Long. Like, I'm obsessed with him. I love him. I loved him. I've loved him since Jeepers Creepers. I thought he was so cute with that little the rose tattoo. The little rose tattoo in his belly button when his shirt ripped. I was like, oh, he's so sexy.
The one thing about this movie I didn't like, and this goes for any type of like movie where there's a situation where a person or a monster is holding you against their will, but they have a reason, not a reason, but like, why they're doing it. It's like, play into it until you get a clear, because there was times at the end where like, because obviously the monster and the girl had a relationship already. And I guess I shouldn't say monster, the woman.
The barbarian.
The barbarian, Lady Barbara, had a relationship already with that woman because they spent so much time together, because she knew what the barbarian wanted, and it was to basically baby something. And there was times at the end where like she was giving in to her and being like, okay, well, let me just play into it until like I can get to a spot where I can either leave or stab her with something. And so every time I see a movie like that, I'm like, just fake it until you get an opportunity. Yeah.
But I could argue, though, that the barbarian in this case is not her. She's not the barbarian. Richard Brake's character is the barbarian. Justin Long is the barbarian, and possibly Bill Skarsgård, but we don't know, he's dead.
Wow,
So,
Jake, you're choosing one of the women in the movie to be the barbarian?
and the police are the barbarians. Like the men in the movie, let's just say it for what it is. The men
This,
are all
this,
the
this,
barbarians.
the house is on like Barber Street. She is literally a barbarian. That's the joke. Do not. Fucking
Sorry.
nerds.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, who are the real monsters? And it was the same thing too in Nightbreed. Is when we were talking about Nightbreed the other day, like, yes, the other is what we're not used to, or not of quote the norm, or what we subjectively feel is beautiful, right? Or what we think is attractive. It's not that, because the people that are seemingly, safe looking aren't. And the only thing that she's safe with is that woman. And I find it interesting that you think that maybe the homeless guy says that he's safe. Remember, he's safe in this area. She never comes here. And then what happens? She gets him.
Well, that's because he took her baby.
He took her baby, exactly. And God, there's just so many layers to me. Like, how many people, like, I wish we could have, I don't know if it's better. Okay, so this is my question. Is it better that we don't know? Or would it be nice if we had a prequel or something where we find out, like, all of the people who are in the cages and what Richard Brake was doing to them in the cages, and like how things were coming to be, right? Because we have all these like little dog cages and all these things. Like, I mean, I think it's scary in and of itself, imagining what was going on down there, but I feel like we're at the tail end of it. He's dying, and the only thing left is I don't know why Jake is looking at me like he's got to fart or something, but I'm just like, I'll be quiet now.
No, I think it's a valid point. It's the question of, is less more, or is it the Disney method where we explain everything? I generally tend to like the mystery. That's just me.
I
But
like.
go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
I
it's
was just
like
gonna say.
if I'm watching Solo, I don't need to know how he got his little laser and his little car, and then none of that matters. You know what I would have much rather had is just some movie where that handsome guy just had a little stupid adventure, and we didn't have to, retcon or explain away. Oh, I'm alone, so my last name is Solo. Uh, but that's just generally the way I view things. I don't think I've ever really loved a prequel or, in a lot of ways. So having an explanation, I don't think is good. I think that the haunting element is kind of what your mind creates, and having to confront yourself, like, am I fucked up for letting my mind imagine that? Like,
Mhm.
all I needed, that whole scene for 20 minutes, the most violent thing that happens is a lady makes a screaming sound, which for all you know could have just been an ungreased door hinge. So that's why I think it was really effective. But I'm completely willing to hear other arguments that you think they need to explain it, or that Richard Brake deserves his own movie because he is great.
I think only shitty movies need prequels, because the only successful prequel I can think of is Ouija and Annabelle. Ouija and Annabelle.
Annabelle the Cannibal.
I like that we don't know. We know enough to have empathy for this lady barbarian, because everything was taken from her. Like, she's a victim in herself, and was born in a super extreme, disgusting circumstance, kind of like a Frankenstein type creature. I'm afraid that if we do go into like a prequel type territory, they're gonna do the thing where it's like, oh, let's put a spin on it, and she was actually a lovely girl that something happened to, and it's like, I'd rather let's just continue what we know and not try to fill in the blanks of something that hasn't been thought up yet. But that's just me.
Because, like, spin-off media and prequels are always very frustrating because you know what ends up where,
Yeah.
generally speaking. So if you can do a prequel that's different, that's cool. Like, look at The Scorpion King, right? It's a bad movie. It's stupid, but it doesn't necessarily go where you think it's going to be, where he's just some cranky boy who becomes a scorpion person. Um, there's a lot of gaps in between. Clearly, they thought that was going to be like a franchise. So there are times where like a prequel's ambition sometimes also subverts it. So that's another thing, was like they might over explain it to a point where it's just bad, or they might hit that sweet spot. But frankly, given how exploratory this was, I think I'd be much more inclined to see Zach Krieger take on just a different subject matter if he can come up with such an, innovative idea again. That's the thing too. Recreating magic is so hard, and also getting people to spend money, it's an incredible task. And getting people to spend millions of dollars for a project, they're going to want some indicia of a guarantee on their return. So if we're like, oh, this is of the Barbarian cinematic universe, the likelihood's probably greater then.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that we needed a prequel. I just think that there's a lot of elements
You
that
said that you wanted it more than anything in the world, more than the TV from Dan, and more than 7 orgasms and a mimosa. I heard you say that. You kept saying it. Mikey, you heard it too.
I plead the 6th.
I would settle for 1 orgasms and 7 mimosas. There you go.
In that order. But like, and that's another thing when it comes to, if this movie had been less of a success, I think the likelihood of it being a spin-off, a prequel, or what have you, is much greater. But with it being so successful, I honestly feel that because of guys like Jordan Peele, that there's the likelihood he could just start over the next episode of whatever, stories he wants to tell. So I'm actually one of the great reliefs of it being so good and so, cinematic in nature.
Yeah. It was a good movie, but I struggle again with, did I like it more than the average movie, or was it just a breath of fresh air because I didn't know what I was getting into? Because so they came out on the same time, Barbarian and Smile. Saw both of them in the theater. I thought both of them were great. Smile and Barbarian are now both on streaming. And I really want to see Smile again. Barbarian, really? I was like, okay, yeah, I really want to show Adam Smile. Adam wants to see both Barbarian and Smile. Yeah, but Smile is on Paramount Plus now. So I'm like, I really want to show, but I was like, but we have to record Barbarian tomorrow, so we'll have to watch that one first. Not that it's not a good movie. It's just, again, I'm struggling with, did I have a good time in the theater? And was I surprised because, or I was also surprised because I didn't know anything about the movie before I went in. Does that make this movie, am I putting this movie on a higher pedestal than I normally would if I saw like a normal trailer and I went to go watch it?
So had you seen a trailer for Smile?
So no, because Smile had a really shitty trailer. It looked just like that movie Truth or Dare. And the only time I ever saw like clips of Smile was on Snapchat. They were advertising it a lot on Snapchat, but it looked just kind of like a stupid teeny bop movie. And I was like, that's the same concept of Truth or Dare and It Follows put together.
Yeah, that's the only thing I saw from Smile was her walking past the patient's room and he was smiling, and then she walks back, and that was the only clip I saw. I think that one of the elements of this movie by comparison, the things I liked most about Smile were the subtleties, were the distortions, were the shifts of perspective. So that inherently has an interest to me in a rewatch because of seeing if I missed any, to explore the filmmaking nature of it. Whereas this movie, what I liked was the fundamentals. I feel like what I liked about each movie is the contrary to the other. I don't think that there's really any subtlety in Barbarian. I think it's overt to a point of being laughable, right? Versus Smile, the things I like most is her holding a phone in her hand. Like that's the stuff that I enjoyed. So I could see that. I also don't think that I would have to jump to see this movie again because the plot itself is relatively small and it's so overt that it's almost beat for beat in my head. Like I feel like I could recite huge swaths of it without issue. Whereas with Smile, like I don't know that I could remember all of her crazy murmurings to herself.
Yeah. Well, which one do y'all? Oh, go ahead, Aid.
Oh no, go. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask both of y'all, which one do y'all think is scarier? Because we've seen both of them.
Well, for me as a woman, I feel like both films play on the trope that women are crazy and we're not necessarily reliable, right? And
you're hysterical. You're a crazy woman.
Well, I knew when the kid got the present. I'm like, the fucking cat's in the box. I told Dan I had to get up. I'm like, the cat's in the box. I can't watch it. Like, I had to go stand in the kitchen.
Can you try and say it like Brad Pitt though. The cat's in the box.
Yeah, exactly. Dan's like, it's how do you know it's in the box? Like, oh, she can't find the fucking cat and she's losing her, like where else is the cat, right? What was the cat's name? The cat Pebbles or Skittles or something? I can't remember.
And then there's the word Pussy and then box. Both of those euphemism for the feminine vagine. So
I mean,
of
I
course
used it for mine too.
You have your heart-shaped box?
What, pussy? We can't say pussy. Did we come to that? Okay.
I was trying to be elevated, but yes, her gaping pussy and her heart-shaped box. She puts her pussy in her box. I don't see any men doing it because she's a crazy woman. See, I was trying to further your point.
But that's what I'm saying. So both of them have an elements to where the female protagonist is being gaslit in so many ways. And, obviously we as the viewer know that they're not, although you could argue that Sosie Bacon's character is losing her mind and she is imagining it until we get to the end. But I think that, by the way, how cute is that Kevin Bacon's daughter? I just love that.
I know.
Now I follow her and they do little dances together. I'm just like, I can't take how cute that is. But like, I think they're both great. I am pleasantly surprised because I thought Smile was gonna be shit.
Me too.
I thought it was gonna be shit. Dan wanted to see it. Every time Dan wants to see a horror movie, it's usually a shitty Blumhouse movie, and I'm like, ugh, I'm not gonna fucking watch that. I'm like, we'll watch it when we can. But
I'll admit, Smile scared the shit out of me, which is why I hold it on such a high pedestal.
It was very scary. There was just so many elements to it. And then I think for me, though, the scariest part is the most realistic parts of that film when her fiance basically turns on her.
Yeah.
And you see that in so many, and that's the beauty of horror films, right? Is that they can take these elements of drama and make them horrific. And I feel like Barbarian does a great job with that. I would rewatch Barbarian. I think they both have a really good rewatchability. I think that the more nihilistic ending of Smile makes it less enjoyable, I guess. But what's his name? I forget. The ex-boyfriend. I love him. He's so cute. Oh my god.
Kyle
mustache
Gallagher?
guy.
Whatever, mustache guy. He's adorable at everything he's in.
From Jennifer's Body.
Yeah, Jennifer's Body, the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. He's in, what is it, The Haunting in Connecticut. He's in all these shitty horror movies, but this was actually a good horror movie.
Yeah, he's in Scream too.
Oh, he's in Scream,
comma TOO.
Yes, Scream.
Correct.
5. I mean, he's a good actor, and I don't mind him in Jennifer's Body, but he's kind of cringy in that one.
Yeah, well, he's supposed to be a Hot Topic product, so.
yeah, so whatever. But I'm really happy with this year and the selection of horror films that we got. But I think that of the two that's more superior and I guess differences, I think it would be, in my opinion, Barbarian. So
interesting.
I would go with Barbarian as well. Not that I dislike Smile, but just Smile. Also, Smile was reminiscent. A lot of it follows. It was distractingly so, where I was just like, yeah, like, and not that it's bad. It's
bad.
Shut up, you hussy with your heart-shaped butthole box. But I like Barbarian felt not particularly innovative. It just felt refreshing. Like it was effectively done. It was well crafted. It was a good story structure. Whereas, Smile was very reminiscent of something else. Its visual storytelling was very similar for the large portions of it. And the things that I liked that it did, that played on senses of perception, that it played on, the fact of the fear of being misunderstood that people have, right? What's the best part of that new Invisible Man movie that came out was when the best scene is when the girl thinks that she kicked her in the face and she's like, what? I didn't do that. Please don't think that of me. Like that's silent stuff. So there were elements I liked of it, but I think that as a movie, it looked and felt very familiar by comparison and not particularly better. So story-wise, maybe, but not the presentation of said story.
Well, that's your opinion.
And it's better than yours, you heart-shaped butt.
Just call me Bussy from now on.
Ladies,
Bussy.
ladies.
My
let's
heart
not-
Bussy. Anywho, I got to skedaddle, so I'm gonna tiptoe out of here and let y'all wrap up.
So am I. So Adrian, say nice things. Tell people to buy Doug's stuff, his movie, his Saturday Night Terrors.
All right.
Do it.
I'll be left alone. Okay, if you want to catch.
Rapido. I'm not
All right.
leaving you.
Oh, well, if you want to catch a dog, you can catch him on Friday nights, Friday Night Action on B Movie TV, Yahira and Jake for Saturday Night Terrors on B Movie TV on Saturday. I think that's self-explanatory. And then I guess Grandpa Oates Cinema Wood Chipper is Sunday, which is also Doug's show on B Movie. And don't forget, Trash Juice is coming soon to a 2B near you. So if you want to see everybody in all of their glory soon, you can. Jake, would you like to advertise a Redbubble? Because I noticed you threw some new designs in there since I
I did,
visited it
didn't I?
last. Yes, you did.
I forgot that I had
Nice
done that.
little surprise.
Let me see. slasherspod.redbubble.com. Oh yeah, I did the weird face one. That one was good. And I
Mhm.
put up another one that I put as private, and then I couldn't even find it, which was annoying. So I don't know how Redbubble does that stuff. But yeah, I have a couple other things that I wanted to do as well. I was going to try and make a shirt for our good pal Douglas. So yeah, if you guys want, slasherspod.redbubble.com, get your shirt, get your sticker, get your bath mat. You can get some of the ones I did last year with variations of uh, references to sodomy and magic and cannibalism. So yeah.
Well, they're all fun shirts. My students are slowly finding these things online. So maybe there'll be a plethora of kids graduating into the year wearing inappropriate Slashers podcast t-shirts. So yay, I'm glad that I contributed to our future society.
The corruption of our youth.
I wasn't going to say that, but that too. And then if you want to support us monetarily or just, like be part of our little, Patreon family, go to patreon.com/slasherspod. We still have the same tiers. So please feel free to come in. You get the episodes early, you get a Patreon bonus each month. Depending on what tier you are in, you get special little treats and fun things. And remember, if you're in the $10 tier, just remind me to send you the t-shirt because I'm old and I forget. So
I'm cranky.
I'm also very cranky today. I don't know if anybody could
Jake's
tell.
being mean, even though he overhauled his whole life and turned it upside down like David Bowie in Labyrinth to be here.
Jake, we scheduled this last week and I put it on the calendar. So don't even go there.
I'll move the
Okay.
stars for no one.
See, this is what happens when you're the only woman in a group of men. You have to
I'm referencing one of the most
constantly move them.
androgynously beautiful men of all time. I don't think you can exclusively say that's a male thing to do.
Well, I just had to pick on somebody and Jake just happened to be in the room. So
Yeah,
there.
I'll be your whipping boy. That's what I'll be.
Oh, you love it. Anyway, so with that, Jake, you're hosting. Are you going to say goodbye to our amazing people? Take us home, please.
Goodbye. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi. Good die.
All right.